धियं करवावहै तमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। चैतन्यं सर्वगं सर्वं सर्वभूतगुहाशयम् यत्सर्वविषयातीतं तस्मै सर्वविदे नमः। येनात्मना विलीयन्ते उद्भवन्ति च वृत्तयः नित्यावगतये तस्मै नमोधि प्रत्ययात्मने। प्रमथ्य वज्रोपमयुक्तिसंवृतैः श्रुतेरातीन् शतशो वचोऽसिभिः दरक्षवेदार्थनिधिं विशालधीः नमो यतीन्द्राय गुरोर्गरीयसे नित्यमुक्तस्तदेवास्मीति एवं चेन्न भवेन्मतिः। किमर्थं श्रावयत्येवं मातृवच्छ्रुतिराधृता। चश्मा ही है ना। येनात्मना विलीयन्ते उद्भवन्ति यद्वृत्तयः। येनात्मना, so the one that is Atma of these vrittis viliyante, when all vrittis merge, then also this is Atma, then never apart from which. Udbhavanti also, when the vrittis arise, then also never apart. Nitya avagataye tasmai. To that Nitya avagati or Nitya jnana swarupa, that is of the nature of the eternal consciousness, which is a very dhi pratyat, that's a very atma of every pratyaya, of every cognition of the buddhi. Therefore, when any thought arises also, it is never away from which self. When the thought merges also, never away from which self. All merger, emergence, all of these takes place with the consciousness as the very content, the very self, the very essence of the vrittis. Just as when the pot arises, then clay is a very Atma, And pot merges also, clay is the Atma, so that which is never negated. In all the changes that take place, something emerges, something sustains, something emerges back. In all these changes taking place in name and form, that which is ever the same, because it is the adhishthanam, this emergence, mergence, etc. are all sort of superimposed upon which, appearance of which. So emergence of vritti, merging of the vritti, all of these are one conscious appearing as emerging vritti, merging vritti, sustaining vritti. At all times this consciousness, self, is Atma of all the vrittis. Tasmai Namaha, that consciousness is the very self or essence of even the buddhi. To that consciousness, the Atma, the Devata, the Paramatma, my salutation. Then salutation Parama Guru, Gaudavadacharya. Pramatya Vajroma Yukti Samvrutaihi Shrutehe Aratin Shatasho Vachosibihi. Referring to the Manduka Karika Adi Alata Shanti Prakaranam, where all the various schools of thought were brought up for examination, and each one of them was proven to be imperfect, let us say. I shouldn't say wrong. Nothing is wrong, but things are not perfect. Meaning that they have not given thought to all the aspects of a given thing and then arrived at the conclusion. The Sankhyas look at the variety existing in the universe and take that variety to be real and then arrive at the conclusion Atmas are many. So that thinking is not perfect thinking. Some thinking is involved, certainly. Some yukti is involved. It's not an all-encompassing yukti. Doesn't take into account everything. So various viewpoints that have arisen on account of incomplete thinking, inadequate thinking, incomprehensive thinking. Not that they are not thinking people, not that they are wrong totally. Parasparam viruddhyante, in fact, Gaudapada says that they clash against each other. We have no conflict, we have no issue with them. We know where they are coming from. Prasamalya Nyaya is ultimately each one dismisses the other, and then finally the one that remains is the Shunyavadi, who has the most yuktis, the subtlest of the reasoning the Shunyavadi has. And then Gaudapadacharya shows that he also is wrong. And all these Shrutehe Aratin, these are all the Shatrus of Shruti. Those who do not accept Shruti as a Pramanam, and they have attacked the Shruti. Otherwise it's all right, there are many people, but these people, if they are left unaddressed, then their views will prevail, and that is how people will have all kinds of misunderstanding about what Shruti says or what the truth is. Therefore, the need to, you can call it demolish them with the swords of reasoning, or show that what is the inconsistency there, what is the mistake that they are making, what is the dosha, the defect involved in the thinking. Raksha Vedartha Nidhim, then that is how the treasure of the Vedartha, which is the Jiva Brahma Aikyam or Brahma, so that is ultimate reality, that's the self, Raksha, protected that. Vishaladhi, all those contenders also have Dhi or Buddhi, but this Vishaladhi, one of the intellects surpasses everybody else's. Why Yatindra? Because he's an ascetic, the most exalted ascetic. So that is when the buddhi will become sharp, when there is no, in the life there is no compromise as far as the vairagya is concerned, as far as dharma is concerned, as far as what is right is concerned, and that will make you an ascetic. Tu guroho gariyase, tu param guru, mai namaskar. The seeking blessing of both the Paramatma, the subject matter of Vedanta and of this chapter, and seeking grace of the Parama Guru, who will give me, inspire me in the right way. And then starts here that Tattvamasi is a prakaranam. And this Mahavakya, this is one statement that the Shruti makes in order to awaken the sleeping person, sleeping the beginningless sleep of ignorance. So is this statement enough or not? Tattvamasi Mahavakya. Is it enough to do its job? What its job is to release this aspirant from samsara, from all suffering, and to establish him in freedom, swarajya, in unconditional happiness and freedom, which is what every human being is seeking, knowingly or unknowingly. And therefore, even though he may ask for something, that is not what he wants. The desire behind all the desires is this unconditional happiness or freedom. And therefore, the Shruti, who is a mother, whereas Bhashyakara is hundreds of mothers combined, concerning the well-being of the child. Mother sacrifices herself, father also may, but not as much as mother. Sacrifices herself totally for the welfare of the child. She is totally devoted to the well-being of the child. And therefore what she says has to be taken, with respect. So this is what Shruti says. Tattvamasi, that thou art, you are Brahman. Is this Upadesha enough? This is what Shruti is. Is that Upadesha enough to release this individual, this human being from this, from samsara, the bondage and suffering of samsara? Meaning that, is this statement enough to create in him, to enable him to recognize his true nature? Oh, I am Brahman. Is this statement enough to make him see this fact about himself? Yeah, I am Brahman. Or this statement is not enough. The statement which is in the form of words, and words are known to create only paroksha jnanam in vyavahara. Because you describe something before somebody of which he is not familiar, and words can only create mental picture, and therefore he can only try to visualize what it is that you are saying. Therefore his knowledge can never be the knowledge of the one who has direct experience. So knowledge that you gain from direct experience is not the knowledge that you gain from description or hearing the description. This is the usual thing. Do these statements of the Shruti fall in the same category? And particularly this statement, Tattvamasi, that thou art. Does it create a general idea in the mind of the student? Or does it create a direct experience, if you want to call it that way, a parokshanubhuti? Is this statement enough to create in him that conviction that I am Brahman? That conviction usually is created when our own experience, then the conviction comes. When I have seen it, I have heard it, I have experienced it. Does this statement, Tattvamasi, or is this statement capable of creating that conviction? Which conviction usually arises from a direct experience. So does this create direct experience? One question. Or does it create the conviction of that experience? Another question. So they want direct experience of Atma. Then only realization has taken place. Vedanta then says direct experience of Atma is, and you have to recognize or see what it is that you are experiencing, to understand your experience. That's the difference between experience and knowledge. The experience doesn't have value, it has a value. It is a value for everything other than Atma. But Atma is only entity that is self-revealing, self-shining, and therefore it is always, it's a nature, it's called Anubhuti Swarupa of the nature of experience itself. It cannot not be experienced. Therefore that needs a different kind of treatment. Even though it is experienced, and still you are entertaining so many kinds of notions or Brahma or delusions about the self. So is the statement required to create an experience or eliminate Brahma? Is there a lack of experience in our life or lack of right understanding in our life? So depending upon that understanding of what the problem is, the nature of solution will become clear. Because in Vyavahara, you know something only when you experience it, not otherwise. So same rule is applied about Atma. You must experience Atma. In that case, this statement of Shruti should create experience. Or if you are already experiencing like Tvam Dashamosi, like Dasama, the experience of the 10th one is there. What is required is the recognition of what you are experiencing. So, the teacher says here, Nitya Mukta Sadeva Asmi. I am Nitya Mukta. Sadeva Aham Asmi, Aham Sadeva Asmi. I am only Sat, and Sat is all I am, nothing else. Sat means Chit, also Ananda, Brahma. Iti matihi na bhavet. That mati or conviction, if that does not... So I have a conviction about myself already, right now. What is the problem in my life is the conviction I have about myself. Not a lack of experience, that's the problem in my life. What is the problem in my life? What causes whatever pain, mental pain, the grief or sadness, suffering, unhappiness, sorrow I have? What causes it? Is that I have not seen Bhagavan, that is why? Or is it I don't recognize Bhagavan? So you have to see Bhagavan, they say. He says you have to recognize Bhagavan. Because what is this Bhagavan? We are already seeing what you are seeing is Bhagavan. In that case you have to recognize. So matihi. That mati or that conviction that nitya muktoham sadevasmiti, if that mati or conviction is not created in the listener or aspirant, so that is what is necessary to create from what he is experiencing. Because the experience is right now of something that is mixed up together of Atma and Anatma. Therefore recognize the Anatma Amsha as Anatma and seeing yourself for what I am, because I already see myself, but then when I negate what I am not. So therefore this emphasizes negation of what I am not. What I am is already there, established. That already has its role in my conviction. When I say I am a jiva, that I am is included in that. The jivatvam is a notion, that's what I recognize, and that part has to be negated. If the statement of Shruti Tattvamasi, and that Tat is means Sat, because it comes from Chandogya Upanishad, which begins by saying Sadeva Somya Idamagrasi. This universe was Sat before its creation. Meaning that Sat is the very Atma of this universe. What is Sat manifesting as the universe? What is Sat? So all this is Brahma, but that is not enough. That Brahman I am, that is where the Mahavakya comes. And that is the conviction that this Shruti wants to create us. And for that, this is Mahavakya. Is this Mahavakya Tattvamasi able to create that conviction that I am Brahman? Nitya Muktosmi, Sadevahamasmi, Brahmaevasmi. If he does not do that, if that Tattvamasi is not able to do, Kimartham Shrava Matro Adhrita, why does the Shruti make you listen to again and again? Why does Shruti like mother? Adhrita Adaravati or Adarat with great commitment. With great commitment, with great devotion, with great concern, the Shruti keeps on saying it again and again and again. 9 times it is said there. Why should you do that? If that saying was not enough, then whether you say 9 times or 900 times, if the saying is not enough, it's not going to do its job. Even saying Tattvamasi is enough. If saying once has not done the job, say second time, but it is saying and listening only every time. And that alone has to create the mati of the conviction. If he did not create conviction, why should Shruti repeat herself? And then all Upanishads only say the same thing. So in every Upanishad, Shruti repeats that. Meaning that this statement is quite capable of creating conviction in you that Nitya Muktoham, Sadeva Hamasmi, Aham Sadeva Asmi. Going to the next verse. Nitya aparoksha svabhavatma swarupatvad brahmana. What is the reason why this statement that you are Brahman is able to create that conviction? What is the reason why this statement you are Brahman is able to create conviction that I am Brahman? Nitya paroksha svabhava atma swarupat brahman. Because what is Brahman? You are a Brahman. That statement creates in this person the conviction that I am Brahman. Why is it so? Because that Brahman is Brahmana, Atma Swarupatvat. Brahman is myself. Brahman is the nature of myself, or myself is the nature of Brahman. And what is the self? Nitya aparoksha svabhava. The Atma is Nitya aparoksha svabhava. It is because it's ever shining, ever self-revealing. Therefore, it is the most immediate reality. It is myself, is being experienced as myself. And the self that is experienced all the time is Brahman. So Brahman is already happens to be myself. Therefore, when I am told you are Brahman, it can create that conviction. There are some obstacles. Brahman is already myself, and still right now I don't have that conviction. But because Brahman is because that is the reality. Satyameva jayate narutam. The truth alone wins, the falsehood does not win. And therefore, the nitya satyabhisandhi, anutabhisandhi. Anutabhisandhi all the time holding on to the conclusion that I am a jivatma is anutabhisandhi, is a false conclusion, false thinking. Therefore, it is subject to being negated by the satyabhisandhi. Only false can be negated or neutralized by satyam. So, instead of myself, who is all the self-shining, always experience. Therefore, Vakyadeva aparoksha jnanam. So the reason why the Vakya, Mahavakya, Tattvamasi can and does create aparoksha jnanam is because aparoksha is nature of Atma. And that Atma is Brahman. Therefore, aparoksha jnanam, aparoksha experience is already there. So recognizing what I am experiencing, the recognition is possible. Because what is presently preventing that recognition is false conclusions. The false conclusions of which falseness can be recognized. Asthulam, ananudasthuloham, anuaham, hrasoham, dirgoham. These conclusions are there, I am small, I am big, I am large, I am short, I am whatever. These conclusions, all of these. And that is my abhisandhi right now. Purushoham, etc. That's abhisandhi going on. This is anuta abhisandhi. It is false conclusion, false notion. But then that is constantly going on in my mind. This false thread is the very basis of what my conclusions are. Basis of my life. But seeing that abhisandhi is false, therefore it is subject to being negated by or corrected by what is right. The light can definitely dispel the darkness. Therefore, aparoksha jnanam is possible by this vakya. You don't require anything more than Vakya for the conviction to take place. Aropita anartha nivritti phalam. So this aropita, sthuloham, sukshmoham, hrasvoham, dirgoham is aropita. And that conclusion creates all anartha. Sthuloham distinguishes me from what? Sukshma. And Sukshma is Sthula, and Dirgha from Hrasva, and Hrasva. And each conclusion only creates in me sense of confinement, sense of separatedness, sense of isolation. And thereby insecurity, fear, and all kinds of things are created. So anartha. The cause of all anartha, suffering in life is right there in that conclusion. That itself is anartha. To look upon the limitless self as a limited, helpless, happy is anartha, or cause of all anartha in our life. Cause of all dukkha. Something is called anartha because it causes dukkha. Otherwise, what is anartha? Something is lost. Is that anartha? Is the gain, loss, coming? What is anartha? Anartha is not that event. The impact that the event has upon me, and that has to do with what I think of myself, not that event. That's that nobody recognizes. This is to be recognized that the impact that things have on myself is not only that thing, but then it is on account of what my notion about myself is. That I am empowering that to in fact affect me. And fortunately the anartha is not my nature, it is aropita. That anartha, sthuloham, etc. is aropitam, is not my essential nature. It is superimposition. And therefore apavada is possible. Aropita anartha nivritti phala utpadyate. All anartha is aropita, superimposed. Therefore the nivritti, the negation is utpadyate, will arise. By this Brahmastra, it is called Tattvamasi. One sentence is enough to do everything. Sab dukhon ki ek dawa in kaya around this was going on, in the olden days. Ityaha. So, main theme of this chapter is Tattvamasi Mahavakya, which is capable of, which does create aparoksha jnanam, and thus releases the aspirant from all the anartha in the life and brings to manifestation all the artha, the sarthakta in the life. The elimination of anartha is accompanied with the manifestation of the freedom. So next verse is Siddha devaham ismat Siddha devaham ityasmat Yushmad dharmo nishidhyate Rajvami vahi dhiri yuktya Tattvam ityadi shasanaihi. Siddha deva aham iti asmat. See, aham brahma is siddham, meaning that I happen to be Brahma, I happen to be 10th man. Therefore, you are the 10th man only removes that anartha, which is notion that I am not the 10th man. So what is necessary is not to create 10th man or experience the 10th man, just remove the notion that I am not the 10th man. That's what this statement does. Because Siddharth, that I happen to be this Brahman, Nitya Paroksha Svava Atma Swarupatva, Brahma is already my nature. Idyasma. Therefore, what is necessary is what I am not. Yushmad dharmo nishidyate. So Asmad and Yushmad, that is why Bhashyakara begins the Bhashya of Brahma Sutra. Yushmad Asmad Pratyaya Gocharayo. So Yushmad Asmad Yushmat Asmat are presented as two mutually exclusive entities. Yushmat does not have Asmatness and Asmat does not have Yushmatness. The idea of you completely excludes I, and idea of I excludes you. I may not exclude that, these other things may not be excluded, but I excludes you. In I-ness, you-ness is not there. And you-ness, I-ness is not there. See, you and I are mutually exclusive notions or concepts. And here there is a lumping together of the two. The Yushmat or you, meaning what is not I, is lumped together with Asmat or I. And so, there is Anatma. Yushmat means Anatma, is you, which is not I. Asma is Atma, which is I. So this I is exclusive of non-I. I excludes non-I. In our life, together of the two. Therefore, I is not to be experienced from I. What is not I has to be negated. Yushmat dharmo nishidyate. So this Mahavakya does this part by giving me this insight that you are Brahman. That insight is provided by Shruti. With that insight, then I see I am Brahman, then what is this Dehoham, etc.? What is that? That's not I. So that Vakya enables me to see what all false notions I am entertaining. And if I am simple and clear, then I can let them go, that if the Antahakana Shuddhi is there, if I have no agenda in holding on to the thing that I am a human being, I am a man, woman, this, that, and so forth, any identity, if I am not deriving any kind of security or sense of well-being from identity, right now an ignorant person derives sense of well-being and, sense from identity. I am so and so, I hold on to that. Believing that that is what makes me distinct from others and that's what makes me, feel good, secure. So this is a track that human being has taken in the life of emphasizing the identity and thus deriving satisfaction from identity. So success is equal to success of identity. Which is a false notion. The way it cannot go too far. All the time, supporting, sustaining, nourishing, nurturing identity, which is what I think is the way of being successful. That cannot take you too far because it is hollow. It is not real. It's anutapisandhi. So Shruti enables me to let go of this identity arising from identity with what I am not. The identity is the problem. This is what Vedanta teaches. So the world teaches that identity is the solution. You must have identity, which is true. There is a time or period in which you must have identity. So Shastra gives you identity, you are brahmachari, you are grahastha, you are vanaprastha. The identity is necessary to make you a responsible person. So that you will do what is right thing to do and not avoid doing what is not right, what is not in dignity, keeping with your dignity. So the identity has served the purpose if it gives you responsibility, not gives you arrogance. So identity is deliberately imparted by the Vedas themselves to create a sense of dignity and responsibility in this person, so that he will conduct himself in a dignified manner, in a responsible manner. The responsibility is what brings about Antagana Shuddhi. You see, dharma. The responsibility will not let him do something which is not in keeping with his dignity. So identity means being aware of my dignity. That I am father, I am mother, I am son, I am daughter, not an ordinary thing. And so a lot of privileges are involved in that because I am father, I enjoy privileges, and then a lot of responsibilities are also involved. People always want to demand privileges without a responsibility. In this world, demanding rights and rights and rights is demanding privileges without the commitment to responsibility. I'm not talking about a movement going on right now, but in general. So rights without responsibility doesn't work. In any case, what I'm saying is identity is imparted to make this person responsible, to instill dharma in him, which is what is purifying. Because he will not allow him to swerve from his path. And therefore it will protect him from falling prey to his temptations. Anyway, so ultimately that identity has to be given up. It is like a pole vault. You drop it. It helps you up to a certain point, then let go. So that's what the Upanishad does. In the Karma Kanda section, identity is there, which has brought you so far. You have to let go. Yushmad dharmo nishidyate. So you are Sat. So here this is what is said, Sadeva Asmi. Because Sadeva Soma begins with Sat. So therefore, that I am Sat, Siddha Deva Ahamiti Asmat. That I am Sat is already established, it's not something to be created. Siddha means already existing, already known even. Yushmat Dharma Nishi. So you don't have to create in him the awareness that you are. Already there. In that Yushma Dharma also is mixed up. That is to be Nishedhyate, that is to be negated. How Rajvamivahi, Rajvamiva Ahidhi. Just as I am Sarpa, that Sarpadhi, Ahi means Sarpa, snake, that notion has to be removed. Yuktya Tattva Tattvamityadi Shasanaihi. Shasanam, Shasana, Shastram. So that is Adesh, this is a teaching. So this is what the Upanishad teaches. Tattvamasi, Tattvamityadi Shasanaihi. So use this statement, Tattvamasi. How can I be? How can Tvam be Tat? Tvam is small, little, helpless creature, and Tat is all limited. How can they be? So Yukti is required. This statement does not immediately make sense. So Vedantin will say that from Vachyartha, Lakshyartha. But point is, you arrive at Lakshyartha by Yukti. Because Vachyartha does not make sense, then you drop that Vachyartha. But you don't drop everything because otherwise nothing is left with you. So what part you drop and what part you retain, that's called Yukti, Bhagatyaga Lakshanam. Meaning that you arrive at Lakshana Vritti or Lakshyartha from the Vachyartha. Tattvamasi is a Vakya which creates Vachyartha. Every Vakya will create Vachyartha to begin with. I am Brahman. Doesn't make sense to me. Because it contradicts everything that I have been always thinking about myself to be. All of you say, you are a king. I am a beggar. Whole life I have been beggar. How can I be king? So then when he says, if I think that the person who says is something to be, is someone to be respected, reverential, authentic, I don't believe you and I dismiss. But here is not dismissible entity. from where it comes. Then I say, what does it mean? And then I will examine my own conclusions. So by yukti, my conclusions are all let go. This statement gives me a basis of reasoning by which, if nothing else, I can let go my conclusion, because I will discover that my conclusions about me don't make sense. What I have been taking myself to be is just taken for granted, doesn't make sense. It's not arrived at a yukti. Some kind of yukti may be there, but there's no yukti really, and therefore yukti can falsify what is just taken for granted without thinking. So by default this is happening. All my notions of minds are by default. Meaning that no thinking has gone behind them. For whatever reason I have been entertaining these notions. Maybe everybody does it, and maybe I have been doing it from the time beginning lesson. Therefore, if things that are taken for granted are not scrutinized or subjected to scrutiny of the yukti, then I find that they do not stand the ground. So then I myself am motivated to let I say it doesn't make sense. That I think that I am a so and so, it doesn't make sense. How do I say that? Yushmadaso nishidya. This vakya enables me to negate. Negate means to give up identity or identification with what I am not. So Tattvam ityadi shasani, Mahavakya is there plus yukti, because that Mahavakya does not make sense right away. Because it seems to go against everything that I have taken to be right in my life. And therefore yukti is required. So Tika says, Aham iti atra aham shabda lakshyad aparokshataya swasiddharat aham. So I, siddhadeva ahamiti. Swata siddhat aham is self-shining. Therefore aham, so lakshya, aham shabda lakshya. Even by the word aham also I have a certain understanding or a conclusion or a notion. That very notion is to be analyzed. What do I mean by aham? So whatever I take aham to be, is it reasonable? So, we have to find lakshyartha of the word aham. So when tvam means aham. Vachyartha, I already know that I am a jivatma. But when it says you are Brahman, then I have to see how, in what way. So, aham shabda lakshyat. It is not that I am already siddha as Brahman in my knowledge. I am Brahman there, but then if I look at what aham means, I will discover that it is Brahman. Vachyartha right now is ahankara only. But based on what the Shruti says, you are Brahman, then when I scrutinize this aham, then why do you call it lakshyartha, the real meaning of the word aham? Aparokshataya swasiddhat atmanah. Atma is swata siddha, self-shining, self-existing. Don't have to create it. Don't have to make it Brahman. We don't have to make Atma Brahman. Nor anybody can make anything that is not. Even Shruti cannot do that. If I am not Brahman, then Shruti can say 100 times that I am Brahman. That won't work. That's what Bhashyakara says. 100 times you say that the fire is cold, that won't become cold. Even if anybody who can. So, what they say must be reasonable. Puja Swami used to say that I don't mind taking any scripture as pramana. You are proud that only Veda is pramana. What about other scriptures? We don't mind them. Provided they make sense. The pramanam, meaning that the valid means of knowledge also must be yukti yuktam. It should not contradict my reasoning. Should be in keeping with reasoning. Atma sakashat from that Atma. The fifth case was a Sakashat. Siddharth, fifth case, Atma. So, Atma that is already existing as Brahman and self-shining or experience. So, Atma that is already being experienced as Brahman, from that Atma, Yushmad Dharma, because the Yushmad also is being experienced not as Aparokshata. Yushmad also meaning Anatma also is being experienced as Aparokshata. Then you can't do anything. Anatma is experienced but as Parokshata. So Paroksha and Aparoksha are all lumped together here. So that is why it is possible to remove Anatma from my consciousness, because it doesn't have to be there. Asakasat, Yushmad Dharma, Paragartha, Ahankaradi, Parag. What is Pratyak and Parag? The inner and outer. And therefore, what is Yushmad? Stands for everything other than myself. Ahankaradi. Ahankara means the notion of smallness. Ahankara also includes Aham. But the ego, the smallness, everything is not false. Aham part is there in the kara. Aham gets an akara because of identification with the anatma, so that part is to be negated. Ahankara, the whole aham cannot be negated. So the ahankara. But anyway, that for meaning you have to negate the notion arising from identification with the anatma. That's what it is. Tattva ityadi shasanehi yuktya sahitai. This vakya itself is not enough. Whether vakya contradicts everything that I have been taking myself to be. Sarvam khalvidam brahma contradicts what all I am taking for the world to be. So then you have to use the yukti. In what way this vakya makes sense? Or does my conclusion make sense? So then I examine my conclusions. Yuktya sahitai. Therefore, the teacher accepts that merely vakya will not do the job. That vakya, mahavakya must be accompanied with yukti of reasoning. So in what sense the vakya makes sense? And how my present conclusion not based on reasoning. In the buddhi, recognize that buddhi has no problem in giving up something that is not reasonable. Everybody has their own reasoning according to which they hold on to whatever they do. Shodhitarthaihi ityavata. So tattvam, both tat and tvam, I already have the conclusions about the two. What tat, what Ishvara is, that also I have a conclusion. What tvam, what I am, also there are conclusions. For Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara, I already have conclusions by default. Because it is the nature of the intellect to have conclusions. Adhyavasayatmika antahkarana buddhi, no need to conclude. I will conclude about anything that I experience. I experience myself, experience world, experience God, whichever way I think I have conclusion about all of them. And right now, all of them are different from each other. They were shodhitahi. So by reasoning, I have to see whether or not my conclusion about myself, conclusion about Jagat, conclusion about Ishvara, are they reasonable? Are they in keeping with my own reasoning? Shodhitahi meaning what? That in my present conclusions, the false part, which is not in keeping with the reasoning, it doesn't make sense. When that is dropped, then you arrive at the true meaning of what is Aham, what is Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, the orbit of Tvam and Tat, you arrive at the true meaning of this. Tattva shasanaihi yuktya sahitai nishidyate yushmad dharma nishidyate. What is non-I is negated, is recognized as non-I. That's all. What is nisheda is that anatma is recognized as anatma. Anatma is being taken as atma, and so as to recognize anatma. Nishidyate brahmagrahita aparoksha sadvayat, brahmagrahita paroksha sadvayatva akara vilapanena atvatvam pratipadyate ityartha. So what does this Mahavakya do? Atmatattvam pratipadyate. It only expounds or delineates Atmatattva, the nature of Atma. How? Brahma gruhita paroksha sadvayatva akara vilapanena. That I take myself to paroksha sadvayatva. Atma is taken to be sadvayatva, meaning it is one among many. Paroksha, Brahman is taken to be paroksha. See, about Brahman, the notion is Brahman is paroksha. I am not Brahman. Atma, I am a paroksha, all right, but I am sadvayatva. Brahman is limited, all right, but it is paroksha. Atma is aparoksha, all right, but it is sadvayatva. I know that I am, but then I am one among many. And I know Brahman is, but Brahman is different from me, or I am different from Brahman. So about Brahman, paroksha is there. Atma sadvaitva is there. Vilapanena, this one sentence does both. Saying that you are Brahman, that paroksha Brahman is eliminated by saying you are Brahman. And you are Brahman, and therefore the limitedness of I is also eliminated. This one vakya, sadvayatva, that you are not one among many, you are Brahman, the self of all. And Brahman is you, not away from you. So paroksha Brahma and sadvayatva of Atma, both are in one stroke negated by this statement. So this statement is subjected to reasoning, understanding. You dwell upon that. Prajapati made a statement, now you think about it. It's not that you will know it right now, you have to subject it to scrutiny of your own intellect because you have to understand the sentence. It should become your understanding, so you have to apply the reasoning. Whatever kind of reasoning you have right now, because of which you are entertaining some understandings, you apply that reasoning and arrive at it. So Prajapati just put in air this sentence, statement, that someday it will reach them and someday it will make them think, Ya Atma apahata papma vijarha vimrityu. What do you mean Atma is apahata papma vijarha vimrityu? So we make them think. So vilapanena, the paroksha Brahman sadvedva Atma vilapanena, this one sentence does that. You are Brahman, so Brahman is not paroksha. And you are Brahman, therefore you are not limited. Atma tattvam pratipadyate, by this statement, pratipadyate is delineated, expounded, taught the Atma tattvam, the truth of Atma. Just there is the Rajvamya ahihi, ahidhi. Just as this is rope, but I find it to be a snake. See, this is rope. What do you think a snake is rope? Then I examine my present conclusion, there is a snake. Then it requires for me to throw a torchlight to see whether my conclusion is right or not. That is the reasoning, torchlight of reasoning. Tatra dushtantartha spashtaha. So dushtanta is well known of rope snake. In that only I am sarpa. This sarpa aspect is to be negated. I am aspect is already existing. So svata siddha. I am, the rope is already existing. So ayam means this already existing, which are experienced. The sarpa is something that is yushmadartha, is a non-rope artha. So, arajju, that is what sarpa is. That part is communicated. So that this is a rope enables you to do that job. So this is how the Shruti by Mahavakya is able to do this. Mahavakya has the capability of doing this. Therefore it is enough to create anew the aparoksha jnana. So this is the whole idea here, whether or not the statement Tattvamasi is enough to create aparoksha jnana. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Kratau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti